And we are officially live. Hello, everyone out there at BC WrestlePod land. And welcome to the La Nextrema post show, your NXT PLE review post show here at BC WrestlePod. My name is Mikey, El Jefe of BC WrestlePod. And of course, joining me as always is the lovely Pleat Father himself, the Kilt Man. And so he is here with me today. And tonight we are going to be talking about NXT's Stand and Deliver. So this was NXT's most recent PLE that happened this past weekend, and it tends to be their biggest show of the year. So, of course, we did a watch along this past Saturday, and now we're here to talk about it, breaking it down of everything that transpired in St. Louis. Before we get into all of that, though, I'm going to make this intro really quick. YouTube, Twitch, and Kick, you can see us go live pretty much every day of the week. And our main YouTube channel houses our edited reviews that go up 24 hours later. We have social media at BC WrestlePod, where you can find report cards, previews of the weekly shows, as well as other things going down. I'm trying to think. We also have some merchandise available to us in our, as Kilt is modeling it right here at our shop, BC WrestlePod shop.fourthwall.com. And we also have a coffee bot that helps us pay for all these pay-per-views and streaming services. So if you want to donate, you can, but if not, that is okay. That little friendo will be popping up in the chat ever so often. And without further ado, let's get into this. So NXT Stand and Deliver. This is the first time that Stand and Deliver, no pun intended, decided to stand on its own, as this is the first year in a long time that Stand and Deliver has not been a part of WrestleMania weekend. And honestly, I'm okay with that because it doesn't crowd everything. And on top of that, too, it allows the NXT crew to kind of stand on their own and to provide a show without it feeling like a long haul like it has been in previous years. So again, NXT Stand and Deliver took place in St. Louis for this one, and we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, so let's just jump into it. We're going to start off with our kickoff match that was on the pre-show, and this was a mixed 10-person tag team match. So on the one side, you have, of course, the Belly Bandits themselves, Hank and Tank, honk honk. We love them dearly. And they teamed up with EK Prosper, our women's speed champion Ren Sinclair, and Shiloh Hill, and they were taking on the Birthright, which is the faction made up of Lexis King, Charlie Dempsey, Uriah Connors, Stax, and the current TNA Knockouts champion and NXT star Ariana Grace. This was so much fun. I had a blast. This was chaotic as I figured it would be, given that this was a 10-person tag team match. I love that Ren got to do some chops onto Charlie Dempsey as payback, which was great.
That first one was loud as shit.
And so this was just a great back and forth action. Everyone got some stuff in. We got to see, Hank and Tank do what they do best. EK Prosper flying all over the place. Shiloh Hills becoming one of our new personal favorites here. And just watching Lexis King and Birthright get beat up was kind of nice too. So this was a lot of fun. It would be our team. It would be Team Belly Bandits over here that would pick up the victory for the team. But yeah, this was a good one. Kilt, what did you think of this countdown match between these 10?
Oh, this was great. The only criticism I have was EP Knight. That's two ways. The name change, I understand why they did it.
It's silly, but
yeah, come on. His name's Eli. Whatever. Anyway, moving forward. And also just him. I don't remember the storyline that threw him into this, but he's there. And I'm like, all right, cool. That's literally the only downside. Not really downside, but it's the only hang up I have in the match. The match was amazing. And as I said, Ren slapped the out of Charlie. And that was old.
It sure
was so good.
It sure was. Now, I'll talk about it at the end, but it seems that NXT has kind of put in our new Evolve talent in their own little subsection of storylines going on, which I'll talk about at the end because EK and a bunch of other folks are going to be stuck in this this men's speed championship picture, and I'll discuss that at the very end when I briefly talk about yesterday's episode of NXT. But this was a fun 10-person tag match. This is what would be on the countdown. And then we can finally get into the main card. So the main card of Stand and Deliver kicked off with our NXT Women's Championship match. This is a triple threat with JC Jane defending her title against both Kendall Gray and Lola Vice. Dare I say, this is probably my favorite match of the entire night. And I think this is what NXT does best because their women's division is carrying not only NXT, but they are carrying women's wrestling right now as far as WWE goes. Because Lord knows that Raw and SmackDown have no clue what they're doing with their women's division right now.
Well, and SmackDown doesn't even know what they're doing with anyone. They are telling the worst stories.
That they are. But for me personally, this was probably my favorite match of the entire night. Of course, we did have some blackouts, but as we come to learn later, it wasn't a technical difficulty. It was a difficulty of another kind. But thankfully, it got fixed as the match went on. JC has had a really fun reign. Champion of over 237 days, I believe, is her reign, which was really, really cool. And I think she's been fun. Kendall Gray is fantastic and she's going to do really well here as she continues to be part of NXT. But of course, anybody who's watched the show knows that we were all happy to finally see Lola finally get that championship and for all the hard work she has put in for the last 3 years for it to pay off because Lola Vice is our winner and our new NXT Women's Champion. But what a match, man. Everyone, false finishes, really great maneuvers from everyone. This was a fantastic match. And I'm really happy and proud of Lola becoming our new NXT Women's Champion. Kilts, what did you think of our triple threat for the NXT Women's Championship?
You couldn't do it any better. The men's match wasn't like the men's match could have been a little bit better and it would have matched up to this perfectly. I'm not saying the men's match was bad. It's just it wasn't as good. This was such a great match. It was upsetting that there was costume difficulties that caused blackouts on the feed, but that happens. It's unfortunate. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. So that happened. Thankfully, there was no countouts during those blackout moments, although there was a lot of close calls and close misses. And I was like, holy crap. But yeah, this was phenomenal.
I'm glad this was a lot of fun. This was a lot of fun watching it live. And then, yeah. But again, Lola is our new NXT Women's Champion. I'm going to talk more about her at the very end. But we move on from this match into our second one of the evening, which was for the NXT Tag Team Championships. This, of course, is the challengers in Rayo and Bravo of Los Americanos, taking on the champions of such tool names, too, of Ricky Smokes and Brad Baylor of the Vanity Project. This match was also a lot of fun. Now, there's a disclaimer. Anybody who has been tuning in for our NXT show for the last month or two knows that I hate the concept of the Vanity Project and their characters. But in ring, I do think that the Vanity Project boys are really good in the ring. And also, Los Americanos are fun to watch too. This was a lot of fun. I had a blast watching this. Of course, it's like the lesser of two evils because, like, Los Americanos are cheeky heels, Vanity Project are cheeky heels. There was a whole fight with the metal plate at one point during the match. It was hysterical to watch. This was just a blast to watch. And I think that this is this is a lot of fun. The Vanity Project boys, because the numbers game was there, Jackson Drake actually helped Vanity Project keep their titles, even with El Grande Americano out there for Rayo and Bravo. But this was a really fun match. That's all the Vanity Project boys retained the championship. Kilt, so what did you think of this tag team championship match?
It was insane. I love every minute of this match. I was really rooting for the Los Americanos because I want to see them win. I want to see them, be on popcorn. I want to see them get more behind them. I want to see some type of belt on their waist. Now, I should have voted the correct way because I knew in my wrestling brain that they weren't going to win. But in my heart, I wanted the Luchas to win. But unfortunately, obviously, we have the Vanity Project and something interesting later. So, yeah.
Yes, we will talk about them later too, because it also came up on NXT last night. And I was like, oh boy. Anywho, but again, Vanity Project walks out as the tag team champions, and we move on into our third match of the main card. Ooh, let me go back. Crazy. Alrighty, so let's talk about this, right? So, coming up third in the main card is the only non-title match that we have, but this one has a lot of emotional weight to it for all of us. This is the grudge match, if you will, that we've been building up to this for a while now. Sol Ruka versus Zarya in this match. Again, the video package that we got prior to the match was just gorgeous. It was amazing. Like, good on the video editing team for putting that together.
It was great. I still argue, why the hell was Zarya in the middle of the desert?
It's crazy. So I'm not gonna lie. I was kind as even though I picked her to win, and it did give me a point on predictions to kind of like bypass a lot of things. I was surprised to see Soul kind of win this one, but now because of Tuesday's episode of NXT, now I understand why. But I'll get into that later. But as far as this match goes, while I definitely enjoyed it, I felt a lot for me personally, because this was the quote unquote grudge match. This wasn't as crazy as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was really solid in ring. I thought there was a really fun like story beats being told during this match, but it like didn't get to that next level of intensity that I thought we were going to get, but I still thoroughly enjoyed the match. And again, at this point when we were watching it live, I was very surprised to see Sol Ruka pick up the victory here, but I really did enjoy this match. I just wish that we got more intensity, but it seems that we're going to be getting that very, very shortly. But Kilt, what did you think of Sol and Zarya's match?
Oh, this was so much fun. I enjoyed every minute of this. I won't lie. There was zero. Okay, I'm gonna generalize real quick. Regardless of what my prediction score was for this event, I have zero complaints about this PLE. This was a great production. It was a okay. Sorry, wait. Let me correct myself. I do have one complaint. I forgot about this for a split second as I prepare myself a drink. The only thing that I can complain about this entire show was how poorly the audience was mic'd. That's the only thing I can complain about. At the PC, you can hear damn near one of us fart. That's how well we're mic'd up. And you might not, it's obviously it's in the garden, in the garden theater at MSG. So it's a tighter space. There's probably not a lot, not normal spots for the mics to go for, them to be able to do everything. But it's WWE. They have the production crew. They have the ability. They've been there before. They could have mic'd it a whole lot better. They didn't. I don't know why they didn't. I'm not going to argue. That was the only negative thing I have the entire night. This match was amazing. This will set the feud up for the remainder of the year. More than likely, what will happen is Soul will probably get called up probably by the end of the year, maybe in time for Judgment Day or War Games or whatever the frack they're going to use for the winter PLE. She'll definitely be in main roster this time next year for WrestleMania, is my thought process. Zarya, she'll probably be here for in NXT for another year. She'll probably feud with a couple other people. But literally this feud between these two, the breakup, it was forced, but it's getting traction. It's becoming a better, I don't like you, a better cohesive cog. It tripped up a little bit and then just kind of seized. It is now running on full gears and I'm loving it. And it's phenomenal. This match was amazing.
Lovely. Two things to note. Number one, this took place at the factory, not Madison Square Garden, because we were in St. Louis, not in New York for this
You know
one.
what? Sorry, that was my fault. That was the Tuesday before.
Yes.
The
And then
factory.
the second thing is I'll get into it a little bit later, but I love how you planned this all out for Sol and Zarya. I think this is going to be happening a lot sooner. I'm going to tell you why at the end of the show. But Sol Ruka ends up picking up the victory over Zarya, and later in the evening, we would see her come face to face with Izzy Dame, which would set up their match, which happened last night on NXT. And again, I will talk about that at the end of the show. But we move on from this match and we're back into the championship picture scene because there we go. We have our first North American Championship match. This is for the men's NXT North American Championship, in which we saw Miles Bourne defend his North American champion against Johnny Wrestling himself, Johnny Gargano. This match ruled. This was a lot of fun. It was nice to see Johnny come back into NXT, and I definitely think this is a really great opponent to go up against Miles, again, to establish him as our current North American champion. What a fun way to get a first title. Like, well, this is his second title defense, but like another opponent that is not Ethan Page, which is nice to see. This was really good. I think this is probably the best match that Miles Bourne has done so far in NXT. And that's saying a lot because his matches before were also really good. But I think going up against somebody like Johnny Gargano definitely forces to bring, everything out of you, which is fantastic. Johnny looked really great here as well. I missed and I wish main roster would let him wrestle more because Johnny is fantastic. It was really fun to see Candice kind of play the partner in crime to try to get the win here. This was close. Johnny came close so many times, but unfortunately, he could not get the job done as Miles Bourne would end up winning and retaining the NXT North American Championship. Kilt, what did you think of this match?
I love seeing our boy Johnny wrestling back at it. The whole depression angle they've been doing since Tommaso's separation from WWE and joining of AEW has, in my opinion, been hilariously great. I'm glad he's wrestling again. I'm glad they don't just have him laying around all backstage. It was a great gimmick. It was hilarious with him to, get to where he was in this match. And I'm ecstatic. I'm glad to see him wrestling again. I'm glad to see him back in what looks to be good action. And I hope that he gets used more. He gets a lot more traction with everything going on with main roster, or if they leave him in NXT and he just starts being the, let me help boost up, you know, everyone else. I just think it's just great.
Love that. So after the match itself, Miles was in the ring celebrating. Johnny Gargano and Candice were on the ramp. And then Miles is ambushed by Dion Lennox of Dark State and attacks Miles Bourne with and hits him with the chair and everything, and then is standing tall over Miles, which would lead into what happened last night, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it definitely seems that we are going to be going towards Miles and Dion for the North American Championship as the next feud, which I am okay with, and it should be fun. Moving on, though, we get into our semi main event, which is going to be for the Women's NXT North American Championship. This is Tatum Paxley defending her title against Blake Monroe. Blake has taken Tatum's title over the last couple of weeks and claimed it as her own. And so, really, this match was so Tatum could get it back, but she is still the current champion. I will say, I do think this was a really solid match. I do think that Tatum's match against Izzy at Vengeance Day is probably still my favorite match of hers so far this year. But I do think this one with Blake was really, really solid. Tatum selling the arm throughout the match was really fun to watch. Her expressions is really, really cool. And honestly, I think this match definitely also helped Blake out a little bit more because I was like, there it is. There is the Blake Monroe slash Mariah May that I know and love. I was just like, yes, be brutal, fight people, break arms. Like this match, I think it was probably Blake's best match in terms of the presentation of her character because her in ring is never a question for me. But I do this. This is the Blake that needs to be it for the whole entire time. And again, this was really fun. We told a really cool story. Blake almost got the title a couple of times, but Tatum would eventually be able to get Blake, hit her with the cemetery driver, and she would end up retaining her women's North American champion. Kilt, what did you think of Blake and Tatum?
I'm always gonna be a Tatum top for life fan. Absolutely love her. I think she's amazing. I think this sets up interesting things to happen. As you said, we're seeing a little bit more Mariah May than Blake Monroe, and while that is interesting and entertaining, I'm curious where we're going with it. I have so many questions, and what's unfortunate is I didn't get to go last night to the show because of vehicle issues, and I haven't gotten to watch it yet outside of small little clips on TikTok because it took forever to download. And so it's like, well, poo. I only got little tidbits. And then I saw something and I was like, oh, I don't like that.
I'm gonna, yeah, I'm
I
gonna fill you
like
in.
it, but I don't like the connotation.
I'm gonna fill it in. I'm gonna fill you in when we get to it. So let's go through our final match, and then I'll fill you in on what happened last night on NXT's episode. So in the main event of Stand and Deliver, we have a fatal four-way for the men's NXT championship. Of course, this is Joe Hendry defending the title against All Ego Ethan Page, Ricky Saints, and Tony D'Angelo. I thought this was a fun, chaotic match for what it was. It definitely had every man for themselves. Ricky and Ethan would work together, but obviously that didn't last long as they would try to steal pins from each other and they were trying to take each other out as well. Joe Hendry trying to be a one-man wrecking crew, defending off everybody, Tony destroying everyone. This was just pure chaos. We had Ethan and Ricky go through the table. Tony D'Angelo, solidified the win with that pop-up power bomb, which was nuts to watch. This was fun, albeit I do feel it was a little bit on the shorter side, but you know what? I'm not going to really complain too much about it. And through everything, even though we kind of sped run to the progression and we got to hear really quickly, Tony D'Angelo finally completes what he came back to NXT to do, which was step 2, which was to become the NXT champion. And he does so by pinning Joe Hendry after a nasty looking powerbomb, which looked really cool. And your winner and new NXT champion is Mr. Tony D'Angelo. Kilt, what did you think about our main event of this Fatal 4-Way?
Our main event and was, as I said, it was a very good match. It could have been better, obviously. I would have loved to see more Ricky versus Ethan, but all the digs they were doing at each other was just pure good. It was great. I loved it. I loved every moment of it, and I'm so proud that Tony came out on top. He deserved it. I hope that WWE does our boy Joe Hendry proud and brings him up. Should he get a rematch? Yes. But I think he should go up. And I honestly want him on this. I want him on, I think, SmackDown with R-Truth because that will be hysterical.
The interactions will be crazy. And then when you throw in Damian Priest too, because Truth and Damian are the tag team champions for SmackDown.
So good. It's so much fun.
It is so much fun.
It'll be great. If Ethan goes up to like Raw, I think Miz is on SmackDown.
Miz is on SmackDown.
Yeah, that would be great.
I think should go to Raw. Yeah, I think Ethan should go to Raw.
Ethan should go to Raw, but I because obviously you want the egos to be on opposite sides. But oh my god, a Miz Ethan interaction, I think that feud of who has the bigger ego would last 2 years. That would be phenomenal. Ricky needs to drop this. I fucking whatever the heck this character arc is, and be either a little bit more serious or be a bigger dick. Because this whatever he's got going on, it doesn't suit him all that well. I'm excited to see what Tony does if they decide to bring like a family aspect back, or if they keep him as a solo. I think he's gonna have a great reign this season, so to speak. However long they decide to keep the title on him, I hope it's till the end of the year, if not till next Stand and Deliver.
Hey, we'll see what happens with all of this and what the year goes for Tony as we go from Stand and Deliver to next year's Stand and Deliver. I'm pretty sure we will get Stand and Deliver, hopefully in the States, because that's probably what they're going to do. Anywho, so that takes care of the Stand and Deliver portion of our show. But like I promised, let me give you a quick rundown and talk about everything that happened last night on NXT, because we are done with Stand and Deliver, and we are now heading into, as of last night's announcement, we're heading into another 2-week special like we did for Gold Rush during the summer. But we are now heading into the next 2 weeks, which NXT is dubbed NXT Revenge, which I'll get into in a little bit. But here is your quick recap of what happened on NXT last night. So the show opened up with Tony D'Angelo cutting a promo, talking to the crowd. The crowd is telling Tony D'Angelo, "You deserve it." And, Tony is the first ever NXT Grand Slam champion, as he has won the tag titles, he's won the North American, he's won the Heritage Cup, and now he is the NXT champion. He's the first and only NXT Grand Slam champion so far. But as he is cutting this promo, he is interrupted by Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, and Ethan Page, staking claim to wanting to get to the title. Yes, Kilt.
Wasn't Johnny Wrestling a Grand Slam?
So he's a Triple Crown. He's not a Grand Slam because Johnny Gargano has never won the Heritage Cup.
The Heritage Cup is one of those, I think this was before my time situation.
The Heritage
I don't
Cup
remember seeing it in the last year.
Well, that's because NXT kind of forgot about it. When Tony was feuding with Stax after the initial turn at last year's Stand and Deliver, they kind of got rid of the Heritage Cup. So that's unfortunate. But back to what I was saying. So we had Tony, Joe, Ricky and Ethan staking, in the ring. The other three were staking claim to Tony's match. Then they are interrupted with Dark State, which it results in them brawling in the ring. We cut backstage after we come back for commercial, and Robert Stone makes a match tonight. Is an 8-man tag of Tony, Joe, Ethan, and Ricky versus Dark State. So that would happen a little bit later. In the first match of the evening, we had Izzy Dame versus Sol Ruca. Izzy would end up winning this match after Zarya spears Sol ringside. And so this sets up what we're getting at Revenge between Zarya and Sol Ruca, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We cut backstage and we see EK and Elio LaFleur and Super Sean Legacy and an NXT debut of Mr. Dorian Van Dux, also known as Mike DeVecchio from Belgium, progress wrestler, European wrestler. He is officially now part of the NXT brand, it seems, which I love. I love Mike D. I think he's fantastic. And he and EK are going to be going at it next week in the men's speed championship tournament, as Elio has to vacate it due to him being injured. So that should be a lot of fun. We had a triple threat: Josh Briggs, Jasper Troy, and Keanu Carver. This was okay. It went too long. We went through 2 commercial breaks. The match probably didn't need to go that long because everybody was getting gassed. But Keanu Carver would end up winning by pinning Josh Briggs. And then later in the show, Keanu and Tony D'Angelo would have a stare down later. So I'm like, okay, we're going to keep that in our back pocket. Tatum Paxley and Shiloh Hill cut a promo together. They're just hanging out backstage. And I have to say, I love these two as a dynamic duo. I think Tatum and Shiloh are fantastic as a pair. Jada Parker is not too happy with Kalani Jordan attacking her at Madison Square Garden 2 weeks ago. So we're getting a match between these two next week. So that should be fun. In the first round of the speed tournament, Lexis King of the Birthright would end up defeating the debut of NXT's new signing from the Independents, Mr. Chaz Hall, also known as Starboy Charlie of the Independents. I love Starboy Charlie. He's been tearing it up on the West Coast independent scene, and I'm so excited. I think he's going to do great in NXT. But Lexus will be moving on to the final round, and then he will either be facing EK, Prosper, or Dorian Van Dux in the finals. So that's fun. Tony D and Miles Bourne want matches from Stone because prior to this, Tony D'Angelo, Ethan, Ricky, and Joe would beat Dark State. Ethan would get the hot tag, kick Tony out of the ring, like literally kick him out to score the pinfall, and then Tony demolished Ethan. So that's the whole thing. Blake Monroe and the Vanity Project are together now, apparently. So for right now, they're going to be a 4-person faction, which should be fun. And the Vanity Project gives Blake Monroe her own version of the Women's North American Championship because she's delusional. And we get a fun mixed tag team match with Shiloh and Tatum versus Blake and Jackson Drake of the Vanity Project. The other Vanity Project boys would get in the way, which would allow Blake to capitalize, and she and Jackson Drake pick up the victory. And then we ended the show with Lola Vice cutting a promo at the end of the show. She is interrupted by Fatal Influence. JC wants a rematch. Lola says, bet, we can do this. And Robert Stone comes out and makes that match official. He also announces that the next 2 weeks, NXT will be having special shows, as the 2-week event called NXT Revenge is going to be happening next week and the following week. So the Tuesday before Mania and the Tuesday after Mania. And these are the matches that we have made so far. Next week, we're going to get Kalani Jordan versus Jada Parker, which should be fun. Tony D'Angelo will be taking on Ethan Page for the NXT Championship, which to me, I'm pretty sure this is Ethan's final match. I think he is getting called up to main roster after this match with Tony, to be completely honest. So I think Ethan is heading on up after this. We are also getting Lola versus JC next week for the NXT Women's North America, for the NXT Women's title. That I'm pretty sure this means that JC is also done too next week. And then in 2 weeks, Kilt, we're probably going to see Sol Ruca get called up because she and Zarya are going to have their match in 2 weeks on the week 2 of NXT's Revenge. And it is a last woman standing match. So there it is. We got the crazy stipulation match, and I'm pretty sure Zarya's going to win. which will allow Sol Ruka to lose, and then she gets called up to main roster. So there you have it. More matches will be announced soon. Like, we'll figure out who the Vanity Project boys are going to defend against if they haven't. See if Miles gets a match against somebody. But yeah, so Kilt, we got NXT Revenge in the next 2 weeks, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be some of the final matches for JC, Soul, and Ethan, in my personal opinion. Oh, and Joe Hendry has a concert next week, so there's that.
Oh, so I definitely can't miss next week because I wanna be at the concert.
Yeah, so if you go next week, you will get the concert. You will get Kalani versus Jada, Lola versus JC, and Tony versus Ethan, too. But yeah, alrighty. Well, that brings us to the end of our La Nextrema review, which was a lot of fun. But don't touch that dial because I will be back here a little bit later with Papa Oso, hopefully. And we will be talking about some CMLL later tonight. And then the rest of this week, we have some fun stuff. Tomorrow evening, we have Progress Wrestling. So I will be here to cover chapter 192, Cause and Effect, before I head on out to this crazy event I decided to go to last minute, which I'll tell Kilt about off camera. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. It's non-wrestling related, but it's still fun. Then on Friday, the TNA crew will be here for the Go Home edition of TNA to talk about the Go Home show for this upcoming Thursday's episode of Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. And then we will also be making our predictions for Rebellion, which is this Saturday, which then leads into Saturday. Myself and hopefully my good friend JT, we will be doing a live watch along for TNA's Rebellion. So we got 9 matches made. It's going to be crazy, coming to us live from Cleveland, Ohio. And then next week we begin WrestleMania Hell Week. We got our Eve Riot Girls event, Bruised, Battered, and Hung Over, which is going to be a lot of fun to talk about. Tuesday we have AEW Dynasty, NXT and CMLL on Wednesday. Thursday is Mystery Wrestling 24, which is going to be exciting. And then Friday kicks off Hell Week because we will be doing a watch along in the afternoon for GCW's Bloodsport, as well as our review for TNA Rebellion. And then next Saturday, Kilt, night 1 of Mania is upon us. So that should be interesting. So
We're to a point where we're probably gonna be almost streaming, like, the entire weekend.
yeah,
Almost. Like, literally, there'll be a few hours of breaks and whatnot, but it will almost be continuous.
it will be continuous because Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is like nothing but watch alongs because Bloodsport watch along and Rebellion post show on Friday, Big Gay Brunch and night 1 of Mania on Saturday, and then Joey Janela's Spring Break and night 2 of Mania on Sunday. So it's going to be a packed schedule. And then that's not even including all the shows that we're covering after the weekend. But the cool thing is, too, and to kind of give everyone a heads up, you will see some of our friends be popping in. Nick is going and his lovely wife, Nikki, will be popping in ever so often throughout the weekend, as well as our new friends, Matt and Sean at If We Had the Pencil podcast will be popping in, too. I'm also working out something with Matt and Sean to see if, I could pop in or we can pop in Tuesday on their show as a lead into WrestleMania weekend, but I'm gonna confer those details with them later this week. But yeah, that's gonna be it for us here tonight. Thank you so much. I got a doggo that needs to go to the bathroom here shortly, so I am going to sign us off really quickly and then talk to Kilt for a few seconds, and then got to take care of that. But from all of us here at BC WrestlePod to you at home, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay iconic. More importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. I will catch you later in a little bit for CMLL. But until then, and
Titty sprinkles.
until next.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another Vibe Tribe production. What's gonna happen next time? Well, you're gonna have to tune in to find out. But until then, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and as always, make sure that you keep the good times rolling. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.